willpower. So what does Jesus Christ, the Sun, and the ancient Aztec deity Huitzilopochtli have in common? The ancient indigenous belief, the Aztecs, the Mayans, Zapotecs, Huastecs, Chichimecs, an array of different cultures following the cultural and spiritual, not religious, backbone of Toltecayot. Toltecayot, the practical spiritual way of living for the ancient indigenous cultures of this region of the world. And willpower was the fuel that would take any individual to her or his fullest potential to become a Quetzalcoatl or a Kukulkan, a feathered serpent. The feathered serpent represents full balance and unification, or a unified being, an enlightened and self-realized being devoid of ego. This is very important, no ego. Huitzilopochtli means literally in Nahuatl, which is the ancient Aztec language, it means left-handed hummingbird. And it represents willpower because it is also a representation, a symbolism of the sun, but also because of its strength. The hummingbird is a bird that goes on long migrations. I've heard that it can go from this region of the Americas to Brazil and to Canada, from Canada to Brazil. According to certain indigenous myths, it is the only bird that has the courage to actually fight an eagle. And it's interesting because it's only the only bird that can stand still on earth. Huitzilopochtli was also the deity of war and the deity of the sun, but also not war like in the Roman, like the Roman god of war, no, of carnage and all that. It was a representation and a symbol of our own fight, our own battles with ourselves as humans, with our ego, with our conditionings, with our self-limitations, with our shadows. The festivity for Huitzilopochtli of its birth was on the 21st of December. And there was the closing of this festivity that lasted a few days on the 25th of December of every year, because it represents the rising sun, or the rebirth of the sun, the rebirth of hope, the rebirth of light, the renovation. Why? Because there's a very interesting astronomical phenomena that happens during those days. On the winter solstice is when, okay, if you live in the northern hemisphere and you look at the sun on spring, on the day of spring, on the spring equinox, you'll see that the sun rising up from the east will travel to the zenith, to the center of the celestial dome. And as the year goes by, as the days go by, then the sun moves towards the south or towards the left. If you're looking at the sun, looking at the east, it moves towards the south. And on the 21st, it reaches its lowest point and it stays there till the 25th. Now, as it moves towards the south, the days become shorter. In spring, the days are larger, summer as well. But in the solstice, the days become shorter, the nights become longer, representing darkness. But it represents how the sun is going to its darkest period, to its darkest space. And for 3 days, it stays at the same spot. Doesn't move south, doesn't move towards the zenith. It just stays there, and on the 25th, it rises again. It is reborn. That is why also many avatars, many deities had their festivities on this day. Like Mitra, from Mitraism, the Persian religion, same thing, no? Rising sun. The Sol Invictus from the Romans, same thing. It's a representation they adapted, a symbolism they adapted into their religion, into their belief system, and then the Christian has adapted that. So Jesus, Jesus's birth is on that date because the sun rises. And huitzilopochtli and Jesus in the mystical Christianity, it represents the sun as well. It represents rebirth. Doesn't Jesus represent hope as well? And light, and the goodness. So the rising sun represents, or the renovated sun, the rebirth of the sun, of the light, it represents, or it more than represents, it the native elders said it is a symbol, it's a reminder that we are also the sun. We are an individual sun that can have a rebirth, that renovates itself constantly. And by this renovation, there is reflection, and there is more gain of wisdom, and there is higher states of consciousness. That's why willpower is super important in order to get to this point of self-realization. It pushes us to know ourselves better, to get to know ourselves, to release the ego. Releasing the ego is releasing the chains of limiting beliefs, again, of our shadows. In our culture today, willpower is seen as, yes, the force that will push you forward to be a hustler at business or at work, professionally, to go to the gym, to get motivation to be fit. And that is amazing, but it is still superficial if we see it in the larger scheme of things, of life, of universal existence. It's important that we get to know ourselves and that we shine our own light as the sun. Just as a brief cultural fact, this is very interesting because Huitzilopochtli was also born from a virgin birth, as well as other deities and avatars in human history and different human cultures. So through willpower, it also helps us to constantly be aware of our own habits, of our own limiting beliefs, or shadowy beliefs, or obscure beliefs, more than shadowy beliefs, and how that sabotages our own sense of fulfillment and self-realization in this life, in the path we walk on this earth. Willpower and intent are basic tools in order for us to gain self-realization, if that's what you want. But why be here and just be a bodily mass and just take up space if you're not creating value, giving value with a better version of yourself, but not intellectual better version. I mean, like a full shining sun, like a full spiritual or spirit version of yourself, instead of the whining and limiting ego that may command a life. So, what do you think? And please leave your comments. I'd love to hear your comments on this concept, more than concept, the sense of having willpower in order to reach fulfillment and self-realization in life, and ultimately enlightenment and unification with oneself, and obviously the heart of the universe. Please leave your comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this content, subscribe, that'll be great, or give it a thumbs up if you like it. And if you don't, thank you very much for watching till the end. That's awesome.